Good morning, entrepreneurs. You are tuned in to the Non-Corporate Network, the worldwide leader in entrepreneurship. You are watching Entreprenews. Dustin, do you want to tell them about the format?
Yep. We get the 6 top headlines from small business, debate them. There's no one in our pockets telling us to give our perspective either way. It's just our unfiltered, unbiased thoughts. The whole goal is to keep you up to date, you entrepreneurs that don't have time to read the news, and give it to you in a way that you like it.
Stay woke, baby. Yeah, and without further ado, I think we're ready to get into our first story. Thank you for watching this, by the way. If you're tuned in on Facebook or YouTube, if you're listening to us via podcast, check us out there, Entreprenews. Reach out to a friend. Let them know about us. If you got a friend that has a business, we want to keep them woke as well. Getting into our first story. Congressional investigation finds over $1 billion in coronavirus aid fraud. Not anything too surprising there, Dustin. But the wealthy and well-connected were showered with our tax dollars, and fraudsters took advantage of the program's troubling lack of transparency. A government waste watchdog concluded over $1 billion in emergency coronavirus aid relief went to companies that double-dipped and received multiple Paycheck Protection Program loans in violation of the program's rules. And this is on behalf of analysis done by the House Subcommittee on Coronavirus Crisis. Dustin, this is troubling, man. You know, we've seen there was oversight that led to deceased people receiving a large amount of money in stimulus checks. We've seen this kind of fraud take place with the PPP loans. And, you know, now seeing that it's $1 billion problem, what are your thoughts? Where do we go from here with this?
You know, it's tough. I mean, the billion, that's a huge number. And I mean, we hit on it a lot that, you know, we need to be more proactive than reactive. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's the cost of doing business. It's you're going to have it no matter what. There's been fraud rampant across the system, I mean, for years. So it's kind of finding that balance on how do we get proactive without preventing money from getting in the pockets of people who need it and continue to drive the economy. But man, $1 billion, that's a lot of money that could be used for a lot of good things. I mean, yep. What are your thoughts? Do you think we should be more proactive and do a bit more investigating before we approve these loans?
I mean, I think it needs to be an account-based marketing type of reform, right? This is a blanketed policy that we're like letting every small business, whether they have 5 employees or 500 employees, it's the same policies. It doesn't make sense to do it that way. I think we need to focus more on very granular policies that are based on the size of businesses, that are based on the amount of revenue that's being done, so that we don't have as much of this fall through the cracks. And it's frustrating to me, Dustin, because, you know, you don't see any corporate businesses losing $1 billion, yet the government bleeds $1 billion, and it's like, well, maybe next time we'll get it right. I just don't understand, because it's not their money; they're getting it from taxpayers. It doesn't really matter that we lost $1 billion. If Microsoft loses $1 billion, like, that's going to be a huge deal to them.
Yeah. So, and when do we get proactive? I mean, we've had 2008 crisis, we've had the .com crisis. We experience it every 7 to 8 years. It's history. I mean, it repeats itself. So when do we get to the point to where it's like, all right, we have so many people, who's going to be impacted by the next one, and how can we figure something out that's going to, you know, prevent the fraud and get people what they need? It's like, you know, you have moms, you have dads, you have business owners, you have kids. I mean, you have impacted people. Let's be proactive and get a plan.
It's almost like a missing persons type of policy, where it's like you've got your silver level, your blue level, your amber level. It's like based on economic health and the size of the business or the person that's being affected. Then it just triggers these different policies. But it seems like these things should be thought out well before now.
Yeah.
Well, getting into our next story, Buick and Amazon teaming up for a smarter user experience. So this is crazy. I saw a commercial yesterday on this story, actually, and it's interesting because now Buick has Alexa-enabled device, inside of their cars, where you take it from your smart speaker to now you're in your car, now you're at the office, there's another smart speaker. Seems like Amazon is following us around. They're making big partnerships with big auto manufacturers, and we spend a lot of time in our cars. So Dustin, how do you think this is going to affect the smart home landscape or smart device landscape? And is Amazon going to be able to take down companies like Apple, or at least pull market share from them if they haven't already?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I didn't even know Buick was still making cars. So that's crazy. But
they got those ads. Oh, it's a Buick.
That is very true. But I mean, in terms of taking market share, I mean, you mentioned Apple Pay, but I don't see too many people actually using that. And even then, it's only connected to, I don't know, the user interface or the UI, UX. It's just not there, and I don't think too many people are actually using it, as opposed to how many people are using Amazon and Alexa. And so everyone wants convenience. I mean, I know you mentioned last episode worried about Tesla with their video cameras. I think that's nothing compared to this. Now they're going to be able to listen to all your conversations in the car. I mean, it's all backed off of convenience, though. I mean, they're going to have a commercial that is you as a mom or dad busy on the go. Hey, I need directions to this. You say it inside. Boom. It's now in your car. You get turn by turn. You get there. You put your headphones in. Your music's already playing. It's all efficiency and giving you time back. And that's what everyone wants. And that's what they're disguising it as. I mean, at the end of the day, they're just building more data on us. And I mean, I think they're going to crush Apple in this sense. I think they can execute it a bit better. But I mean, what are your thoughts? Are you for this?
Unlawful wiretap in the breadth of convenience, in the ethos of convenience. Yeah, this is the Wild West of policy. I mean, they just got probed and got caught red-handed on the fact that they use their own data to make themselves more money in other verticals through the marketplace. And so, what is it? How long is it going to be before another House subcommittee realizes that there's an issue going on? And then once they realize the issue's going on, what are they going to do, Dustin? They're gonna go, oh yeah, so what do you think of this? And Bezos is going to sit there with his lawyer on the other side of the camera going, oh, I'm not 100% aware of what you're talking about. It's like, are you kidding me? Like they're too big to get in trouble now. It seems like it's frustrating. But I mean, in the name of convenience, have at it, Amazon. Tap all of our conversations.
Yeah. I mean, you talk about using data to build out their own products. I mean, they're going to have a huge word cloud of all the words that are being said and go, oh, look at these things. Let's create products or service around them. None of these people said it.
In the name of innovation, in the name of convenience, we're going to be able to natural language process every conversation that you have in the privacy of your home or car. Perfect. Getting into our next story. So Arizona Republican Paul Gosser says coronavirus pandemic is overblown on Twitter. Despite the numbers, one Arizona congressman said. The quote is, "I think this is a golden opportunity for those that hate the president." And then he later says that maybe only 64 days until the pandemic is over. He essentially is saying, Dustin, that the pandemic is magically going to end at the end of the election, and that it is more about media permutating ideas about the negative implications of COVID over the actual real threats. This is something that's hard to, take a side on. We're grossly uninformed as the public. But, what are your thoughts? Do you think that the COVID is just going to kind of magically evaporate at the end of the election when there's no more pedestal to be shouting from in regards to this problem?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not huge on conspiracy theories, but I mean, every 4 years there seems to be something crazy that happens that somehow magically disappears right after the election. I mean, we're already getting headwind of it that, it was going to be middle of 2021 before we had a vaccine, and now all of a sudden it got pushed to December, and now it's November, and it's like, oh, okay, so November we're going to get, these vaccines, and that's right around election time. But I mean, all that being said, there's a huge consensus that there's one party always attacking the other and all of that. I mean, if this is the case that all this is happening because of the election, I mean, it just blows my mind how much time, energy, resources, money is all being...
How many people have been affected
by
this?
I mean, on top of that, the mental damage that it's done to people being secluded and inside, I mean, it would infuriate me if that were the case, to where this is all done because in the name of politics. And all you ever see anymore is how bad the other person is. I always go back to, if we were to change how we're using our minds and resources and all that, right, to actually show how we're going to change the world, I mean, how much more of an impact would, the American people actually have? And that's what the government is for. I mean, it would blow my mind if all this was backed by, political stuff. But I mean,
well, it's tough.
Who knows?
It's tough to see these things and not take it like as, have some merit behind it. I mean, you've got an elected congressman that's saying that this is the case and blasting that to the world. And so, you hope that you can trust your congressmen or congresspeople, congresswomen to keep you informed. We elect them to be our voice in these types of discussions. And so when our elected voice is saying this is the case,
scary.
And we hear fake news all the time, and it's hard. I mean, that's why we're here, Dustin, because we're tired of fake news and, this whole media permutating your decision-making process when it comes to the election time. It's troubling to me,
Really is.
You hope that it's not just a grand scheme of how can we influence somebody as opposed to keeping them woke, but,
it's one big marketing campaign.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all it is.
If that's what we're in, it's like, well, maybe it's the same as China, censoring the internet. We're getting censored. The messages that we hear, like, it's tough.
Yep.
It's just a different way of doing it. Either way, I'll tell you one company that we're all about is State 48. They're not doing any censoring. They're bringing you the real amazing collaborations. They're bringing you the real stories of real people that are doing real things that are impacting not only Arizona, but the entire nation. And they're keeping you looking fresh while they're doing it. So
exactly.
What they got going on.
Make sure to check them out, state48.com. I mean, as Chaz mentioned, they do a lot for the community. I mean, they make clothing and apparel, but at the end of the day, they're doing a lot of collaborations that put a lot of money back into the community and those in need. And so it's a win-win. Check them out, state48.com.
Absolutely.
Cool. So let's head into our next story. So it's a company called Better K from Rebalance, or there's a program called Better K from Rebalance. And really they're trying to help with the 401k situation for small businesses. They come in and instead of making a cookie cutter program, they meet with each individual employee and carve out a strategy for what's going to achieve their long-term financial goals. Right now, it's for companies that have less than 100 employees, the cost of offering 401k is just exponentially huge. And so most small businesses can't offer it, which then makes them not being able to compete with the larger business. And so what Rebalance is doing is they're coming in and slashing the fees for those companies and catering to those companies with under 100 employees. On top of that, they assume the investor's role, really being the fiduciary of the company. And so they assume all the responsibility. So they're taking the responsibility or risk from the business owner and holding it. And so one, they're bringing the cost down to bring great benefits to employees, and they're assuming all the risk, which I think is huge. And so really my question is, should more businesses be looking at this to be able to compete with bigger business? Or are there other ways that you can compete?
Yeah, I mean, the writing is on the wall. The gig economy is growing. Small business, solopreneurship is really growing. While we are seeing a lot of small business closures, there's a lot of people that are unemployed that are looking for ways to make money. And, that gig economy is going to, like I said, it's going to continue to grow. It's supposed to grow by over 50% over the next 2 years. And so seeing this and seeing how small businesses don't necessarily get access to the best healthcare for themselves and their employees due to the expense behind it, I think there needs to be an unbundling of this. And, I think the reason that it hasn't been unbundled yet is because it's this big, hairy, smelly monster of, oh my gosh, 401k, like there's insurance involved, there's government intervention involved. This just is not a good business. It hasn't been innovated. Like there's no technology there, And to a contrarian, that is a huge opportunity. But to the average person, they're going to look at this and go, I'm not going to touch it with a 10-foot pole. So, I love seeing what they're doing there. And I think that it can really benefit small businesses, especially those micro small businesses with less than 50 employees that, otherwise are going to struggle to provide healthcare to their employees.
Yeah, I mean, we're literally going through this process right now, and it's mind-boggling how much the costs and fees are associated. The smaller you are, it's like, well, how does that make sense? The smaller we are, the more we have to pay, but that makes it to where I can't pay it and offer benefits, and so you can't retain the top talent. But what I'm excited for is one, I think business should be hopping on this, but two, I think this is going to open up the door to so many more unique ways to offer benefits to your employees. I know you've mentioned it in the past where there are things where it's the team can give points to people, and those points can be redeemed for things like gift cards and all of that. And I think there's going to be a lot of clever companies that come out and figure out how to help the small business on that benefit side and help just retain more talent.
Yep. Good for them for making this happen.
Yep. I'm excited to see. So on to our next story. McDonald's, the national brand, they are facing a $1 billion discrimination lawsuit from dozens of Black ex-franchise owners. The claim is that the fast food giant systematically placed them in substandard locations that hinder their profitability and growth, saddling them with high insurance costs and leaving their restaurants performing well below the national norm, according to the plaintiffs. This all comes as the CEO recently mentioned that McDonald's has made more Black millionaires through their business than any other company on the face of the earth. The lawsuit has 52 former owners saying that they made $2 million in revenue per year from 2011 to 2016, which is $700,000 below the national average, which has caused most of them to go into bankruptcy and just face just horrible financial situations. And so really, I mean, what are your thoughts on this? Yeah. I mean, do you think they have a case? Do you think McDonald's, systematically over the last 3 decades just, sat in a back room figuring out how they could, not give the equal opportunity to everyone? Or, I mean, what are your thoughts?
Well, it sounds outlandish when you say it like that, but let's think about how many African-American board members do they have? How many people do they have that are of color in their front office? And you start to think, well, maybe this lack of diversity has kind of permutated those things. So I take this very seriously. It's also hard to believe somebody like McDonald's. I mean, for instance, They advertised for years this 100% Angus beef patty that they had. Come to find out, they bought a farm and named it 100% Angus beef so that it was 100% Angus beef patty. Doesn't mean it was 100% Angus beef. But
came from them.
So it's hard to trust a company like that. But with that being said, I don't know enough about the process. I would think that you'd have the ability to select the location that you want to purchase and that you're not just kind of stuck with one and stuck with the insurance they give you. I think it has something to do with your credit. But, again, troubling headline, and it's not going to do good for them either way, whether this is true or not.
Yeah. I mean, to your point, it's like I would think as a franchisee, you can choose your location. There's a lot that you have a choice of, and going back to that 100% Angus beef, I mean, the McDonald's executives are cutthroat when it comes to profitability, and I don't think that they're going to hinder their profits to try and systematically, hinder a certain race or gender or whatever that may be. I think more so what needs to be done is this is eye-opening, but how can we fix this? I mean, is it the location that all these owners were at that look those particular geos just didn't perform as well? I mean, I think there's more to be said and other variables at play that might have caused this outside of...
What do you think about Triple P was only distributed to more urban areas, and so that was something that, we'll call it systemic, call it whatever you want. Mm-hmm. It's ironic that those don't get it, but the other ones do. I mean, but again, as you said, they're all about their money, so it's hard to bet on them trying to bleed themselves dry.
We'll see what happens as time goes on. So on to our final story. So there's a program called Rio Reimagined. It's a project that got boosted from the federal government. So who all is involved is the EPA, ASU, the Department of Interior, and a few other federal agencies. They held a live stream the other day talking about the partnership and the long-term plan. The effort is to revitalize the rivers across America. To date, the EPA has provided over $1 million worth of technology and funding for local food, environmental assessment, hazard mitigation planning, green infrastructure, and urban forestry. Arizona's at the forefront of all of this across the nation. And Martha McSally mentioned that she's excited to revitalize the river ecosystem, but also the economic growth that this is going to provide. So, I mean, with all this, I mean, it's an awesome story. I mean, that's great. The environment, we're green. That's awesome. But considering the current environment of what's all going on,
Yep.
I mean, do you think the feds and the local government have bigger issues to debate and think through? Or do you think this is a good use of time and really revitalizing the local economy and infrastructure, which will then trickle into, at the national level?
It doesn't seem like the government's the one that's going to be executing the plan. So, I mean, I think that getting ASU involved in this can be great. I take our environment very seriously. We live in an amazing country. We live in a beautiful country. And, the more urbanization that happens, the more that we unbundle cities and create more and more living environments outside of those cities, the more we're cutting into, our overall health of the environment as a country and as a world. So I think it's always a good time to prioritize this. And Dustin, what I would tell you is that we spent $2 trillion on stimulus. We can't spend $1 million on cleaning the rivers and, giving ASU a opportunity to lead the charge on doing that. I think it's great.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's not. I don't think it's about the money. I think it's the brain power of what problems are we solving. I mean, but to your point, I mean, this could help impact long-term growth and sustainability and all that, which, I mean, ultimately that's where the debate is at the core is the financials. Is this the best use of time and energy to help from an economic standpoint? But I think to your point, there's always going to be something big that's going to prevent this thing. So it's kind of one of those things where do you keep it on the back burner? Do you just, we have to kind of prioritize and we can't put 100% focus on this big issue, but there are other things at play. So
sustainability is synonymous with profitability. And so I think that either way, it's something where, if it increases the longevity of doing things that are more eco-friendly, that are more safe for our environment, that's only going to benefit us from a wealth perspective. So I like seeing it, but, I understand there is a lot of stuff out there. And I think this is less about, hey, let's spend time reforming policy in the government on this and more about, hey, how can we look positive and light for investors, or not investors, but voters going into the election. So probably a little bit of pandering going on there.
Yeah. No, I hear you. So, I mean, after everything we just discussed, Chaz, what stuck out to you? What was your favorite story?
I don't know if it's my favorite story, but, I lose sleep at night over this whole Amazon listening to our conversations thing. And I mean, I'm very much on one side of this argument, I understand. And so I know there's positives to, being able to make it more convenient, but yeah, I think we've lost pretty much all privacy. It would be every conversation we have is transcribed and stored somewhere, and we don't know where. And I think that's absolutely ridiculous and completely and utterly unethical. So,
Chaz, fired up, man. All right, well, my favorite was the not so much favorite, but what's going to be interesting is the McDonald's and how it all plays out. I mean, $1 billion lawsuit that could bankrupt McDonald's, but at the same time, we're obviously dealing with a lot of racism and inequality that's going on, and really, I mean, what comes from this could set a precedence on, how lawsuits in the future are brought to the table to big corporations. But I'm excited to see how it all plays out.
Yeah, you hope that they don't uncover some more troubling news. Yeah. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. Whether you're watching us via live stream, whether you're watching us on YouTube, check out our podcast. Don't let Alexa be listening to you while you're driving. Just listen to Entreprenews. It's going to keep you woke, going to keep you up to date with the most recent small business trending headlines. And we love doing it, and we appreciate you guys for being here. So check us out anywhere. Just Google Entreprenews. You're going to see a million things pop up. We want to interact with you. If you're an entrepreneur, whether you're in Arizona or you're in the U.S. or if you're on planet Earth, we want to collaborate with you. Check us out, ncnbroadcast.com. Share your story with us. We want to use our resources to help you keep people woke in your area of expertise. So, again, you've been watching Entreprenews on the Non-Corporate Network. Dustin, what's the Non-Corporate Network again?
Non-Corporate Network? It is a network that we're
the worldwide leader in entrepreneurship.
Okay, Chess.
The worldwide leader in entrepreneurship. Dustin, you have anything you want to add to the sign off there?
Nah, don't want to be interrupted again, but I appreciate it.
Yeah. you guys are going to know. We're going to be on TV one day, and you're going to be seeing the worldwide leader in entrepreneurship.
Yep.
Like, I know those guys. There we are.
There we are.
And we'll be back here on Friday to give you some more stories.
See you guys Friday. Go out and make it happen.